Welcome back. You are watching Good Morning Kenya. Today's a viewpoint, and I'm glad that you are still with us. Okay, from politics and religion, welcome to class. Good morning, class. My name is Mwalimu Victor. All right, on a lighter note, in studio, I'm privileged to have the PS State Department for TVET. That is Dr. Esther Thaara Muoria. Welcome to the program, Daktari.
Thank you. Good morning.
Karibu sana. And Gideon Murenga, who is the TVET coordinator, national coordinator under GIZ Kenya. Gideon, karibu sana to the show.
Thank you so much.
PS, first of all, I have to start where we should. You are one of the lucky ladies under the sun. You are appointed secretary, county secretary, and then almost hours later, the president called you for a higher calling. Let's go back. How did it feel?
Thank you, Victor, for having me this morning.
Karibu.
Well, it felt confusing almost because I had been in Embu for quite some time,
yes,
doing a lot of work, especially in the governor's task force, 100 days task force, and we had a lot of work there to do, especially on health. And while there, we did the interviews, and yes, I was appointed a county secretary on a Tuesday evening, sworn in around 6:30 p.m. on a Tuesday. So the following day, I got very busy taking over as the county secretary of Embu, and we actually had a battery of meetings from the governor's office to the boardroom.
Yes.
And then somewhere along the corridors, people start asking me, "Madam, you don't want to celebrate?" And I'm like, what am I celebrating? And then one point, we got into the boardroom, and I just looked at my phone, and I'm like, wow. So that became a turn, yes, of things from Embu to Nairobi.
To Nairobi.
Here I am.
How is it so far sitting at the helm of one of the biggest seats and institutions in the country? Because with education, it's the backbone of everything.
So far, so good, with its own challenges along the way. I must say it has not been rosy all the way, because getting to fit into these shoes at the helm of government cannot be said to be easy.
Yeah.
And we are in a space where we are required to produce results. So it's a question of getting into a space where you have to organize things, get things working, and it has been very, very busy. But all in all, it's coming out well, it is working, and it is going to work. So it's not been easy coming all the way here, but we are getting the threads running.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gideon, when you look at the TVET institutions, it's actually meant to complement other institutions in the country. And as the national coordinator, GIZ Kenya, I mean, when you look at the universities, you know, they have a lot of intakes. We have got, you know, tertiary institutions, and then we have got TVET, which is also close to the government's heart. How is it like as we speak?
Yeah, thank you very much, Victor, for that. I think when you look at our education system, the TVET plays a very crucial role within our education system, which I think for many years this has not been, you know, taken in, let's say, in a very positive way by a lot of the public, because TVET has kind of been seen as the second option to university education. And we have instances where, you know, once a student has gone through high school and they have not done well,
yes,
and then the parent will say, now you can go to TVET, which is a very wrong notion that we need to move away from. What we're saying is that TVET gives you the hands-on skills, you know, that will serve the various aspects of the economy. We talk about our industrialization agenda. We cannot achieve that without a competent workforce, and we need TVET skills, you know, TVET institution to generate their skills. So the over-focus to universities is working negatively for us, because now everyone has a university degree that we're talking about. But then what are we saying about universities? Universities are preparing you for management skills. When you look at a structure of an employment space or an industry, how many people can take up managerial supervisory positions? There are very few. But majority of the people, you need people with hands-on skills, which we miss. So I think the notion towards TVET needs to change. We need to move away from looking at TVET as a second option, but TVET as an alternative pathway I think you're now realizing that even students, I mean, we need to position in such a way that it doesn't mean that if you didn't qualify to go to university, that's when you consider TVET. It means even if you qualified, but you want to acquire hands-on skills to your life, then you can still pursue a TVET pathway. Therefore, I think in terms of how it's going is, I think the focus, the PS has been pushing this very well in terms of creating awareness. Structures are in place, policies are in place. I think we just need to sensitize more Kenyans for them to realize that, you know what, TVET will give you skills, you know, for sustainable development. It will give you skills that will serve you, that will be with you for the rest of your life.
Yes. PS, you know, when Gideon is speaking, it talks about the issue of the mindset. About, you know, people who've just left high school and want to join either college, universities, or TVETs. I'll come back to the issue of the mindset and mentality surrounding the TVET. But when you talk of hands-on skills, I'm made to understand that you're also pushing for the 70% practicality skills and 30% theory. This is where perhaps we miss the point, because when you churn out people who are already out of universities or colleges, they come out as quote-unquote half-baked. Does this worry you whenever you sit on your desk?
A lot. Victor, this worries me a lot, because we are churning out graduates from universities, from other colleges, and what we are saying is that the industry is having to retrain them for them to perform. I have seen engineers trained in the university space where I've been over the years, and they will confess to being real engineers after being in industry for some time. This makes me sad, and when I was given this opportunity, I told my heart that I wanted to change this narrative. I wanted to change this narrative so that we will churn out people who will go out there and perform. I have my own son who told me after about 2 years in industry that now, Mom, I feel an engineer. And he trained in a university where I was myself. So these are some of the things that made me think that we need to change this narrative. We need to have youth who can actually have skills they can go out there and do.
And this has to work across the board.
And this has to work across the board. But it has to start with me, it has to start with you, Victor. So now that I have this opportunity, I come to a space where I decided that, and I was able to convince the people I am working with, that we need to change the curricula, recraft the curricula, so that we are talking about skills training. Actually, I came and found a curricula called CBET, Competency-Based Education and Training. And I told them, I want us to change this education and training to skills, competency-based skills. So that, because, Victor, there is power in spoken word. So when we talk about skilling, everybody starts thinking about skilling. Everybody starts working skilling. Then we are going to have a population of youth who have the skills. Because let me tell you, Victor, even the industry today, they are not asking you what certificate do you have. It's about what can you do.
Exactly.
What can you do? Therefore, me and you are charged with the responsibility of ensuring that by the time these young people are getting out there, they can do. So that they go out there and are able to do. So that there is one that we are doing at Meru National University, Meru National Polytechnic, that I've been talking about everywhere, that we broke building and civil engineering into skills like gypsum technology, tiling, walling, painting, so that even if you graduate with that civil and building engineering, you can actually do everything along the continuum. So that if whatever industry you now go to, you can be able to do whatever it is that you are required to do there. And like Murenga said, we are not all appearing somewhere as managers. We are appearing as managers and people who can actually do the work. And let me tell you, Victor, we have also to change this notion that people who are working with their hands are less paid. Let me tell you.
That's more like talent.
we have to also change this notion and be able to also remunerate people out of what they can do, not just about the big certificates that they are holding. So my clarion call is that we have to train our youth at the skills sets where we are churning out people who can actually go there and do the work.
I'll come back, PS, and talk about the issue of your policy paper to change that narrative, because at the end of the day, you also have a mandate. You also have your vision at the end of, because you are given a 5-year contract,
yes,
and you must deliver at the end of 5 years. But
yes,
Murenga, when you look at, when you hear PS speak, it has been a trend over the years that anytime you churn out students out of colleges, universities, you know, it flips. 30% skills, 70% theory. And then now you start learning on the job. But employers are not looking for that. They want somebody, what can you do for us, the way PS has said? Yeah. How are you going to flip it? Or from the coordination desk, how is it going to work? So that at the end of the day, it's not even 70, it's 80. Skills, 20 theory.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that introduces, I mean, the dual TVET approach that we're talking about. Because, I mean, what we're saying here is that we are trying to avoid the situation where the employers are sitting on the other side and saying, you are giving us half-baked graduates. So what we are saying is that why can't you sit with these TVET institutions and develop a joint curriculum? So if we develop a joint curricula with the industry, it means the skills that will be generated out of the institutions will be the skills in demand, what the industry requires. And that brings the dual TVET model that we're actually working with the ministry to roll out in Kenya. Because dual, from the name, dual is 2 places. So it advocates for 2 learning places. You learn in a TVET institution and you learn in the industry. And what we are saying, you learn in the industry for a minimum of 50% training duration. That means it can go up to as high as 70% training in the industry, while the remaining time you train in the school. So what does that mean? It means the students going through that system are exposed to the environment in the industry, to the latest technologies, to the work culture. They are ready to be employed from the first day. So there are no issues of employers saying, I have to retrain, I have to invest again in inducting this person. I give you a contract in the morning, and at 10, you have started working, because you have already trained in the industry. So that advocates for the dual training. And I mean, dual training is a model that has been operational in other countries for a long time. Germany has had it for more than 100 years. I give examples that the cars we take pride of here in Kenya, the Mercedes-Benz and BMW, we call them German machines. The skills and technology behind that are from TVET graduates who have gone through dual TVET.
You can't be serious.
Absolutely. Those are students.
So German cars are made by students, the TVET students?
Oh, yes.
Graduates of dual TVET are actually the ones who have generated this. And when you go to their even training institution now, they are thinking about even cars for the future, concept cars, they are building it. And that is exactly what you're saying TVET can generate for you. Thinkers, innovators, you know, that creative thinking, it's something, skills that can be generated within a TVET institution.
This started from the last regime. Former president was also quite hands-on, not white-collar jobs, because if everybody wants to put on a tie and a suit and knocking every door, I'm just imagining who is going to, you know, repair the cars. And when you go to TVET institutions, we have got engineering courses, we have got masonry, etc., etc. But let's talk about the issue of before I come to the policy paper, Banam PS, the issue of mentality amongst the youth. If I don't get the university grade and go to a university of my choice, then I'm not worth it. How are you changing that narrative?
Victor, we are here today with Murenga to speak to the youth and tell them that TVET works, and tell them that TVET is not for the other alternative for universities. TVET is a pathway to a formidable career, like Murenga has said, which has worked very well in countries like Germany and among other European countries. And so we are here today to tell the youth that this is a good pathway, And we also have quite a number of other strategies in place to work out a mindset to the youth, and so that they stop looking at TVET as the other
last option,
as the other way,
yes,
because you did not make it to the straight way. Victor, we overemphasized at one point in the last regimes for good reasons on university pathways. You remember the many universities we introduced to, so that it looked like that is the only pathway to go to. And yet, if we have to get to our next level of economic development, we need people who can invent. We need people who can do things for industrialization. So this is the message we are taking out there as a department and together with our working partners. And we have developed a strategy that we are calling NITCAS, National Integrated Communication and Advocacy Strategy, which we are going to roll out from region to region in this country. We want to start from Western. We want to go to all the places across this country to be able to speak to everybody, both parents and the youth, actually. Because parents, we are others who think that our children are 8 when they have the university degree. Yes. And we want to change this mindset for even with our parents, together with our children. We want to tell them that training our youth into what they can do is what is going to be beneficial not only to them but to this country as well as to the world at large. Because, like my colleague has said, Victor, this is the level that has plummeted these other nations to our level. Look at South Korea. Look at where they are today.
It's a skill-based nation.
It's a skill-based nation. And so until and unless we change our mindset in the same way and know that it is this skills space that is going to plummet us to this other level where we want to go, then we are not going to be there. So Victor, my department is up in the game to convince the entire of Kenya that TVET is the way to go. Skills development and training is the way to go if this country and if our families have got to develop even economically.
You know, this conversation is coming at a time that in a month or two we'll be having university intakes in September.
Yes.
So I would imagine the rush to have, you know, to have accommodate students, you know, call them the big universities across the country. But that is not enough, because a university can only take so much, you know, a particular number. And this comes the issue of TVET. I mean, Gideon, the issue of mindset, it takes a whole load of energy to convince someone that that polytechnic is good for you. That course you're going to look at university X, Y, and Z is also there. We've had situations where students who come out from TVET or quote-unquote mid-level colleges are properly equipped because of the 70-30 ratio. But let me ask you, this can only happen when we have enough manpower, the tutors, we have the equipment. How has it been over the years? The last regime picked it, and now we are in this particular regime. How are you going to move it to the next level?
Okay, thank you for that, Victor. Let me start with the issue of mindset.
Yes.
Now, TVET is everything around you. Everything around you is TVET. Your suit, an apparel manufacturer or technician worked on it. Your shoe, a leather technician worked on it. In this studio, this table, there was a technician who worked on it. The lighting here, there's an electrical installation expert who worked on it. Our sound system, there's a sound engineer who has worked with it. Those are technical skills we're talking about. So everything around you is TVET. So the first thing to look at is, we think about those, sometimes we think it's dirty jobs. And we imagine we don't want to be associated with dirty jobs. It's not about that. We have to differentiate and see exactly what do we get out of that. So you acquire a skill, it makes everything run. Can we assess here management skill? We might not be able to assess it by saying, but all technical skills here we can see everything standing around us. That is TVET for you. So it starts with the issue of branding, and I think that is what the government has done very well on that. Even rebranding things like the so-called village polytechnics. They are not, you know, people used to think village, then I'm going to the village, then I'm associated with the village.
Yeah. So
now, so everything is village. Now I'm a villager, you know. So now that is one of the things that changed from branding. Yes. Now we are talking about a vocational training center. So it's all about the branding aspect. There are also very good demonstrable, let's say, results from students who go through TVETs, and a lot of examples are available. I would give example in the dual TVET system. The 7 pilot institutions that are rolling out in Nairobi. We have Thika TTI, Nairobi TTI, KIST, Western we have Bumbe TTI, Riat, Kerubo Gietai, and Kitale National Polytechnics. There are students who have come out of that. One student performed very well in the World Skills competition, a TVET student, and she represented Kenya in Namibia in the World Skills competition. This is a TVET student. I'll give you another example. Students who were in their second year of training at Kiambu Institute of Science and Technology doing industrial mechatronics were able to install a distillation line in one of the companies on their own, just under supervision, on their own.
Okay.
This is something that the graduates they were working with could not be able to do. They could only be able to speak theoretically of what needs to happen, but they could not be able to do about that.
Okay.
So these are just some of the demonstrable results. On the issues of equipment, now, sometimes I feel like...
Let me take a break. Let me take a break because that's a huge topic that I want to talk about, equipping institutions, the issue of curriculum and even funding, which is also key because they go hand in hand to make TVETs, the dual learning and TVET institutions to be what it is. Let's take a break. All right. So class is in session. Today we are putting aside politics kidogo. Let's come back with more after this break. Stay with us. Right, welcome back. And thank you so much for staying with us today. Talking about TVET institutions, that is dual training in TVET institutions with the PS, that is Dr. Esther Thaara, Muoria, and Gideon Murenga, who is a TVET national coordinator under GIZ Kenya. So, PS, let's talk about the issue of reconstructing the curriculum, which at the end of the day is tailor-made to suit particular students. At the end of the day, will also churn out fully baked students. So what is your ministry doing to reconstruct the curricula? Because that is what's very much important for the dual training in TVET institutions.
Thank you, Victor. We have decided as a department to break down the curricula, like I said earlier, into skill set, so that if you are doing, like I said, a program like building and civil engineering,
right,
then we have broken that curricula into skills, like I said, like gypsum technology, walling and tiling, and you can do like 3 or 4 of them, then you graduate at the micro level. Then you can do more of the skills and graduate at medium level.
Yes.
Then you can go all the way to all the skills in that curricula so that you graduate now at the highest level with a diploma, which we call level 6. All right? So all the curricula that has been, where we have been training students and they are getting those so-called electrical and electronic engineering, mechatronic engineering, those big names, they are good. But we want to make sure that even as you are being called an engineer of this and that, you can be able to do each and every skill along the continuum. So that is what we are doing. That is one thing we are doing about the curricula. Then we have woken up, in quotes, the national polytechnics as the qualification awarding institutions.
Okay.
They have had that mandate for some time, but it had not been operationalized. So what we are doing also, together with our regulators, TVET and Kenya National Qualifications Authority, is assessing the national polytechnics and being able to qualify them as the qualification awarding institutions, so that if it is a qualification that is going to be trained with an industry near Kisumu National Polytechnic, then we will be able to train our youth together with the industry in Kisumu and be able to award the qualification in Kisumu National Polytechnic. And if it is a qualification that is in Ekerupo Geitai, where it is all about tea, we are able to train all the skills in that institution and be able again to qualify them as at Kisii National Polytechnic. So what we are doing is that we are making sure the curricula befitting certain areas with the industries around them are crafted in such a way that we are able to train the students at Ekerupo Geitai to be able to operate the machinery in the tea industries. And once they have been able to do that curricula, they are able to be qualified and certified at Kisii National Polytechnic, which are also, this is very important also for us to note as Kenyans, we have brought up the bigger examination body in TVET called CDAC, Curriculum Development Assessment and Certification Council. That council is going to be the headmaster for the National Polytechnics, so that whatever is happening at the National Polytechnics space to operationalize that curricula is also oversighted by CDAC Council.
But that's quite interesting, because you realize it's in the past, certain institutions had some courses that had to be scrapped because they were not tailor-made to suit that locality. You find in an institution somewhere in northeastern doing production or tea plant operation, something of that side, which is not relevant to that locality. But when you look at the entire structure, I mean, the aspect of coordinating between university, the institutions of now higher learning, do they have a correlation that you can move from TVET and slowly and gradually graduate into a university and now upscale your skills? Do we have that? Do you have that?
Of course, Victor. You can do everything and all that you need to do at this level of the diploma level. We have universities like Technical University of Kenya, Technical University of Mombasa, and you can be able to upscale to that level. And actually, we are having an active conversation with those universities where we want to have a pathway, an easy pathway, let's call it. So where you can be able to, where we can be able to have the transfer of the qualifications to that level. So we are speaking with KWE, who are the regulators of the university space, and ourselves, and we want to put that continuum in place, so that after you graduate with a diploma at the TVET institutions, if you so wish, you can move on to the university and the PhD level, if you so wish.
That sounds like a good deal. That sounds like a good deal.
Right. Actually, what you're saying, exactly what the PS has put it, is that TVET lays a foundation for lifelong learning. And therefore, it does not create a dead end. And I think that's one of the perception issues. We just talked about mindsets. I think there's a belief to the public that once you go through TVET, your life is finished. You cannot progress. Now, you go through a TVET system, you have an option of moving to the labor market if you want and start working. But there's also an option of you can still progress, you know, and go to advanced level of training. And again, another advantage when it comes to TVET is so TVET gives you the advantage, PS has talked very well about it, the short courses. Because these short courses give you an advantage of you acquiring competencies within a very short time and going to the labor market. Within a very short time, you acquire skill, you go and start working. And that now explains to you why right now, the world we are moving into, a TVET graduate will start earning before that university graduate starts earning. Because by the time you complete your 4-year course, the TVET graduate has completed a 6-month course. They are already in the labor market. So that's the flexibility we are talking about that is going to give now TVET graduates more advantage. Also, and generally, this is part of the job creation agenda. Because we're talking about youths who have no skills, they have no jobs, and they have no skills. But the advantage of acquiring TVET skills is that you can get employed, you can advance your career, or maybe, I mean, you want to advance your education to another level, but you can move to self-employment. How many technicians do we see over weekends? They have their toolbox. Over weekend, they are serving clients, you know, their individual clients. Weekdays, they are working for someone else. Those are the advantages that TVET gives you. For management skills, unless you work as a consultant, I don't see how much of yourself you'll be able to.
Absolutely.
Another continuum, Victor, that is existing there is, as we speak now, I have told you that we have gypsum technology in Meru. We also have university graduates in that space who have decided during their long holidays to come to our institutions and be able to get to train in the skills. So even when you are in the university,
you can still go to a TVET.
You can come to our TVET.
And that's why you call it a dual TVET training.
That's a different terminology, Victor. But what we are saying is, we were talking about the continuum between our institutions and the universities. Yes, you can even be at the university level, and it is happening in our institutions today as we speak, where you feel you want to acquire a certain skill. Why not? Come to our institutions and we'll train you. And I have said, in the space of the gypsum technology in Meru National University, we have university students there who are training in that skill during their long holidays. So yes, that continuum between TVETs and universities will coexist actually spontaneously or progressively.
Okay. Madam PS, the issue of funding.
Yes.
It's a very dicey issue here. What is your ministry doing about it?
My ministry has come up with a very pragmatic funding model, which has spoken to the space of equity very well. We realize that there are those or young people who have remained outside because of the funding, and the president the other day announced a funding model for TVETs and universities, where if a family and this is completely vulnerable, then the government is going to fund 80%. That is 80% of the money is going to be by government funding, and 20% will be a loan from HELP. And then we have those who are needy. They are going to be funded 70%. The first group is vulnerable. The second group is needy, and the needy ones are going to be funded 70% by the government scholarship. That's a scholarship, and 30% by the HELP loans, which of course you pay after training and a lot of them. And that continuum goes all the way to the most vulnerable, to the most vulnerable, which means nobody should stay out of school. But as we come to the space where me and you, Victor, exist, and we can be able to a large extent to fund our young people to be in college, then that allowance is also available. So this is going to be arrived at, Victor, through what we are calling a means testing. This has existed in the ministry for a long time. Means testing means that we are going to look at your family background. Are you single? Is it a child without parents? Is it does one parent work or both of them? What is the education level of this child's parents? And that is why what we are calling it means, the family means, which once arrived at, then we as a government are going to decide at what level each and every learner should be funded.
Absolutely.
That is one way. The second is we are working with a lot of working partners, like GIZ here, where we are speaking into working with one another. We have the Germans on board, we have the Canadians on board. Yesterday I was speaking to USAID, among others, where as much as possible we are able to look at what is possible, what is doable, so that we can be able to fund this space.
Imagine GIZ not in collaboration with the ministry. What have been the ripple effect? I'm looking at the negative side of it.
Yeah, I think let's appreciate that the partnership is there, so we don't look at the negative side of it. Yeah, we look at the positive. But yes, we have very good collaboration with the ministry, and I think just going to the dual TVET that you've just asked about, it's good for the public to know what we mean when you talk about dual TVET. I mean, we're talking about 2 learning places for the students. You train sometime in a TVET institution, and you also train in an industry. I'll give a typical example what we're doing with the 7 institutions in Nairobi. So your first term of training, you start in a TVET school. The second term of training, you go to an industry. The third term, you come back to school. The following year, term 1, you go to the industry. So you alternate between the industry and the institution in train. That's why we call it dual. Yes. So you learn in the industry and in the TVET school. So that means competencies that can be transferred in the industry are actually transferred practically in the industry by in-company mentors. So you find that this student is not just sitting and getting lectures and theoretical sessions in class. They actually getting hands-on training. So the industry gets involved in one of the issues we talked about, curriculum. So there are no issues of, again, relevance of curriculum, because they contribute to, they determine the curriculum to be trained. If there is change in technology, they call in for curriculum revision, and there's a provided period on when curriculum needs to be revised. When it comes to implementation, they are part of the ones implementing and supporting their training. So students go to the industry for some time, and you see this deviates from our traditional way of teaching, where you go for attachment for 3 months. Actually, attachment, there is no attachment between the student and the employers, and we all know that. Yes. Because you go there, you do some clerical work, serve tea. At the end of the day, the manager writes for you a very good letter, report, then you go back and graduate. We know that. So there is no attachment. So dual training deviates from that. There's actually a very deliberate intention by the employers to train you. They even have a list of competencies. They know what needs to be trained. If it's an automotive workshop, today a customer brings in a car, it has an issue on the braking system. The student that day, they will learn about the braking system practically. Okay. Yeah, so that is what dual training means. Even it comes to selection of students, the industries take part in shaping and identifying which students need to go for which particular course. And you know why? Because we have an issue in this country where people are taking courses because the parent said so, or because the richest person from my village comes from that place, or because, you know, the guy driving the most expensive vehicle did that course. And then along the way, what happens? You discover that this course is not cut out for me. How many of us are doing, are in a career field that are far away from what we trained?
Wengi sana, so to speak, the Kenyan language. Wengi sana. Madam P.S., I'll give you the I'll give you the last one. You have got a 5-year contract to achieve and to deliver to Kenyans. Kenyans are watching, and I'm also reminded to ask you that do we have TVET youth and Mandamano? How do we get this youth out of the street? Because today it's a sad day for our country. A majority of people who are going to go on the streets are youth. How are you going to bring them to the bracket? In 1 minute, if you can kindly.
Victor, my trajectory, like I said, is to ensure that, first of all, the house is in order, that I have the skills in place, I have the institutions cut out for the training, and we as a department, as a ministry, we are working very hard also to make our institutions as attractive to the youth as possible, and like we are doing now, and many other strategies that we intend to put in place to speak to the youth and to tell them to get out of the streets, to get out of the drinking dens, because that is also another big problem, and come to our institutions so that we can skill them. So, Victor, what I have wanted us to do very well first is to put our act in place. Make sure the curricula, the assessment, the certification, and the institutions are in place. Then we go out, like we have started doing now, to speak to the youth like we are doing now, and we are going to go into other strategies. We are going into roadshows, we are going into regional meetings to be able to tell the youth, now you can come to this institution. It is very attractive because I have said we even have a TVET beautification strategy in place, so that we are telling these students this is a nice place to go to, and we have got everything that it takes. We have got the equipment, because we do. Victor, we have the equipment. We have the equipment to train them. We are even recrafting the trainers. We have spoken to all these working partners that I spoke to, and we have agreed with our Kenya School of TVET. In case you did not know, Victor, we have an institution called Kenya School of TVET, which is training our trainers to be absolutely in place to be able to skill our youth. So that when we go to speak to them, we have a strategic place where we are telling them to come into.
Daktari, your background is you're a teacher, you're a lecturer, and time is of the essence.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I think that's the place to end it. I'm afraid that we'd have continued this for a very long time, but we have to take a break because GMK has to continue. Thank you so much for joining us. That is Daktari Esther Thaara Muoria, who is the Permanent Secretary, who is the Permanent Secretary, State Department for TVET, and Gideon Murenga, TVET National Coordinator, GIZ Kenya. Class dismissed. We're taking a break. GMK continues after this break. Stay with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Class dismissed.